Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today we have the first mid-size micro pistol rifle red dot sight. This is the Vector Frenzy Plus, not to be confused with the other 4 or 5 optics in the Frenzy lineup. It's going to be a little confusing. Now, full disclosure on this optic is that they did send it out to me for free, so I did not pay for this whatsoever. And on top of that, I also have a discount code, which I believe is 10% off. It's just code FOCUS, I believe. And then it's also a 5% affiliate. So if you use that code, I will make 5% off of whatever it is that you spend. Now, if you want to support me directly, Subscribestar is a great way to go. And you can also check out Callaway Ballistics, use code FOCUS to save yourself some money. Now, getting into basics of the Frenzy Plus, there are 2 different versions of this optic. The cheap one is about $200 with a 3 MOA dot and no solar failsafe. The other option is $230, has a multi-reticle system and a solar failsafe. That's a pretty cheap upgrade, but since I don't like big reticles in small windows and solar failsafes are pretty gimmicky, I don't feel the need to spend the extra monies. These are technically acro footprint optics, but only MOS to acro footprint, if that makes sense. The RMR to acro adapters won't really work unless your frame is cut down on the slides to allow for the slightly longer Vector Plus to fit in it. If we compare size to a Viridian RFX45, which is a full-size enclosed emitter pistol red dot, we can see just how big the Frenzy Plus is. This means that it won't fit a lot of non-MOS cut slides, and the footage that you see on my RMR cut Glock, it's just barely hanging on as the slide is interfering with the optic mount just a little bit. Another problem with its size is that it won't fit a lot of your holsters, whereas the aforementioned RFX45 does fit a lot of my duty style holsters, the Frenzy Plus fits in none. The only holster that I have that it does fit is a cut L2D from Blackhawk, and that's because I cut the holster to make larger optics fit. To really illustrate the problem, if we compare it against a T2 style optic, say like the SIG Romeo 5, the Vector, which is nominally designed for handguns, is larger in some dimensions than a full-sized rifle dot. Now, moving on to controls, we have illumination buttons on the left-hand side of the optic, 8 daylight settings, and 2 night vision settings. Windage and elevation are in 1 MOA increments and are nicely tactile and audible. On the right hand side of the optic, we have our 2032 battery tray, which will power the optic for 50,000 hours on the lowest setting, though again that is combined with a 2-minute auto shut off, and it will automatically turn back on once it senses motion. In terms of the body design, it is a very chunky optic and overbuilt. We have an extension on the front to protect the glass, and we also have a sacrificial front lens as well. So in terms of design and durability, I'm not sure what abuse they were expecting it to take, but I assure you that it can. Now, window size is unfortunately very small at 18 by 20, which is not the smallest that I've seen in a enclosed emitter pistol optic. It's very similar to K-sized pistol optics, but when you compare the window size to the rest of the body, it looks quite silly. The glass quality itself looks very good. It's clear, sharp. There is a little bit of a visible notch filter, and there's also a little bit of a magnification effect present, which again is common in these very small red dots. Now, getting into the dot itself, my version is again the 3 MOA only. It's a very good looking dot. The emitter refresh rate is very good all the way through the illumination range, so I don't have any issues with it there. When it comes to actually using the dot on a handgun with my ported Glock 17, it was very easy to use and pick up the dot, but that's also because it's a ported Glock 17 and very easy to shoot. It's also basically the only handgun that I shoot, so I have a lot of time on it. And while the glass and dot are very nice, when you compare it to almost every other pistol dot on the market, it's kind of subpar due to the window size to body ratio, and the body itself is just quite large. Now, if we switch up the POU and we say put it on a rifle or a PDW, it essentially acts like a SIG Romeo 5 or similar, so I don't really have any complaints about it when using it there, other than the acro footprint. Now, when we get into use case and where it sits in the market, this essentially represents a no man's land. If you consider it an enclosed pistol dot, it is cheap at about $200. However, the size of the body and relatively small window makes it a somewhat subpar option for pretty much every pistol application. If you consider it a small rifle dot, well, then it's more expensive than a SIG Romeo 5 and comparable Holosun options, and with those options you can use the more ubiquitous T2 mounting platform, and overall they're going to have better options, features, and even window sizes at around the same cost. So even in an offset or a top mounted roll alongside an LPVO, which is a roll that I used it in quite a bit, usually I'd still rather have a SIG Romeo 5 since they're essentially the same size with better mounting options. So is the Frenzy Plus right for you? Almost certainly not. If they are going to use such a large body, then they need to increase the window size substantially, as that way at least you would feel like you're getting some sort of benefit for the increased size. Or if they're going to keep the window size the same, then they definitely need to find a way to shrink the body down around it to make it fit on more handguns and more holsters so that you can actually use the thing in its intended role. So again, while using it was fine, it's a very durable optic, it's not particularly expensive, it just doesn't perform well enough in any role, and it doesn't really fit, no pun intended, in any role well enough to justify picking one up, at least for me. But with all of that out of the way, guys, let me know what you think of the Vector Frenzy Plus, and if there are any other of these inexpensive boxy optics that you want me to check out in the future. But once again, with all of that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. God bless.